Parade is an instrumental piece from the Mystic Harp album, and like many of the songs on that album, Mystic Harp and the Mystic Harp 2, they're just presented as instrumentals. But in this case, Parade, like Sailing the Blue Sea that we did last week, is a purely instrumental song. It doesn't have any additional lyrics, as a number of the songs do. Things like Dare to be Different and The Hill That Was Tara also have lyrics that can sing that give us a lot of insight into the meaning. But with a pure instrumental, we do need to, all we have to go on is the title, as well as the various arrangement and instrumentation within the piece to really try to understand and explore the consciousness that it's communicating. Now, as a whole, this piece Parade it's rather light and uplifting and somewhat reminiscent of a real-world parade with, it's usually a procession of floats and musicians and entertainers and, people of honor, perhaps even, animals and other things like that you would find with a circus. In fact, David Miller, who worked on doing a lot of the arranging and recording of the Mystic Harp album, said to imagine Derek Bell, the harpist from the Chieftains, going by on a float as he's playing the harp, as well as some of the horned instruments on the recordings. There's a certain buoyancy in the piece that I hope you could hear it, that there's this deep drum going on in the song that if you're just listening on, say, a phone or some simpler speaker system, you won't really hear it. I do really encourage you to get the recording of this piece and listen to it with good headphones or some other good audio system that has that bass, because you really hear this low, deep pulsing drum that can make you think of parading elephants, perhaps, or like a big bouncing ball, or like those large balloons they use at the Thanksgiving Day parade that Macy's puts on in New York City. And it's just a buoyancy there that's really, in a way, saying, come float with us, a buoyancy that's I like to imagine it like a hot air balloon, and your heart is in the basket under that balloon and being lifted buoyantly, floating through the air above all of its particular hurts and the things that would try to draw the energy down the spine and let the heart sink into the lower centers. So we feel that buoyancy in the piece through these pulses of this deep drum that's almost like a calming heartbeat of the song. It's as if it's reminding you that no matter how hurt your heart might be, no matter how much heartache or brokenheartedness there might be, the heart keeps pumping and life goes on because there's still life energy there. It just keeps going. And that deep drum, if you listen to it, is very very bouncy in a way. It's like it's going down and coming back up and down and coming up with a big kind of sproing and sproing, like the steps of perhaps a baby elephant. Not a big grand elephant, but a sprightly, if you can call it that. A newborn elephant, as we've sometimes seen in zoos around the country, has a lot of energy and all that. So there's that lightness to it, but still large and bouncing, like one of those exercise balls you can sit on that would bounce up and down. And those gentle, deep notes are really a way of touching the lower centers in the spine, giving energy to those and giving them some bounce of their own so the energy doesn't get stuck there and can really be released to flow up to the heart. You can also think of that drum as maybe the elephants in the parade kind of stomping on the negative qualities that would hold you down, releasing their energies and allowing the positive qualities of the lower centers to shine through. In one way or another, really lightening the song and bringing that energy up. And you can really think that when you talk about a parade is a procession, right? It's a, it's a time where you're seeing all these things going by, and there's a joy in just focusing on the parade itself and forgetting your own hurts and your troubles. And by keeping this energy uplifted, this song really serves that quality of hurt feelings, which is the same as the song I Live Without Fear. And Swami Kriyananda assigns parade to the quality of hurt feelings in Secrets of Emotional Healing on day 11. He assigned the same quality in a different saying to day 12, to I Live Without Fear, but day 11 reads like this. It says, "The secret of overcoming hurt feelings is to expect nothing of others, thus their words and actions will always find you inwardly at peace." This lack of expectation is really appropriate for a parade because you watch and enjoy a parade really with the express purpose of being surprised and being delighted with whatever's coming around the corner. You don't know. The parade itself has a plan. Of course, somebody had to organize it, but if you're watching, you just see the scenes as they pass by one at a time, and you can delight in each one as they go by. And this is really a beautiful way to look at the circumstances and events of our own lives, right? We want to watch the scenes go by with delight, knowing that it's all part of God's plan, not having expectation and attachment about what should happen. We just let it go by, see the delight in it in the moment, and we can get by, or we can get through life, you might say, while avoiding a great many hurts and a great many frustrations. Now, another element in the piece that you've heard behind the variations of the main and secondary melodies, which we'll review here in a moment, is a snare drum. Now, in one way, the snare drum provides a kind of marching beat, as snare drums were often used in like marching bands or even with marching armies, and that's appropriate for a parade as well. On another level, you can think that maybe that snare drum represents kind of the external distractions and even irritations of the world. I'm sure I didn't bump that. The world of Maya, the world of illusion, is always full of distractions and irritations, and that try to prevent us from delighting in the moment-by-moment experience of the parade. So the melody of the parade, in a way, is really trying to help you navigate those distractions and keep your focus on uplifting the heart with that moment-to-moment delight. Now, I have heard from some people with this song, as well as Brave Were the People, that has a similar snare drum to it, that they kind of find that snare drum to be a little annoying. And if that's the case, you might try to turn it around and think of it in a more positive way. to say maybe it's, if you, to allow me a rather violent metaphor, it could be like a little machine gun in there that's defending you from distractions and irritations, or perhaps shooting little bits of karma out of your spine, knocking away different little delusions and kind of freeing that energy up. And so if it can be a very helpful element, not just an annoyance, but I'll leave that particular choice to you. Now, against these background elements of the low drum and the snare drum, then you hear the different melodies being played on the harp and the horn that you could think of as representing the procession of the bands and the floats and the entertainers in a parade. So let me start the song again, and we can hear first the primary melody here that's just happy and joyful, where the parade begins, warming the heart center and getting us attuned to the procession as observers. So I'll finish listening to that section. And then the horn comes in, which is really a divine presence, joining the harp with a slower, smoother secondary melody. And the harmony here helps the heart join in and engage with the parade. There it is. And the parade, again, is a procession from one point to another, and implied here, I want to make sure I stop it in time. Okay, I want to stop it there. The parade is that procession from one point to another. Implied in that is a parade of energy up the spine, you might say, from lower consciousness to higher consciousness. And this joining of the divine presence takes the heart feeling of the primary melody and places those feelings onto a broader canvas, if you will, lifting the energy from just the heart chakra into the throat chakra. And that's the center of expansiveness, which very much helps overcome qualities like hurt feelings and also self-involvement by relating all those feelings, whatever it is you're feeling, to a greater reality or broader arc of feeling. And again, the low drum is kind of bouncing the energy out of the lower chakras, not letting anything sink down there and get stuck. Now the next phase of the song introduces a higher and brighter melody, and let me play that here. With the harp in front of that divine presence of the horn that's back there and softly and more energetic, and it's like the heart's feelings. I'll make sure I pause it again. That the heart's feelings are responding to that primary melody with something brighter. And the energy here then, we've brought up to the throat, we're now bringing it to the medulla, making it kind of a personal response to that divine invitation, where your response is that thought of, yes, I can uplift my heart's feelings, which helps the heart then stay uplifted instead of sinking in despair. And the low drum here, you might notice, if you can hear it, is a little more rapid, which is awakening, again, a little more energy, a little more support from the lower spine to go upwards. And then in the fourth phrase here, we have a tertiary melody, or a third melody, with both when both the horn and the low drum have dropped out. It's like a burst of individual will that we want something higher, and the divine presence represented by that horn. I need to pause it here again. The divine presence represented by that horn has dropped out to allow our individual free will to make a decision on our own, instead of being compelled to by that, being forced to make that kind of decision. As it says in one of the readings for Ananda Sunday service, there's a title that says, "Truth invites, it never commands." And that's the same thing here. The divine presence has invited us, and to see if we'll respond with that, "Yes, I can," out of our own free will. And then when it does, that energy that we've had in the medulla can flow upwards here to the spiritual eye, and that's where we finish the phrase, hearing the celebratory cymbals and a different drum roll that's different from the snare. Now, this is just halfway through this particular recording, and the piece could in fact end here, because we've come to a point of completion, lifting the energy from the heart to the spiritual eye, keeping it from sinking. But then while we're here, as happens in many songs, it's a great opportunity to really, from this higher point of consciousness, we've changed our consciousness. Now let's review everything going through the song again. And in this case, reviewing things like past hurts and resentments and regrets from this higher vantage point. It's like what happens in the process of liberation, that one is freed from the delusion of ego first, which is the state of a jivan mukta, but you still have old karma to work out. And so the jivan mukta will, through the course of many meditations, really relive all that karma to see that in every action and every lifetime, it was just the divine acting through this body and this soul in every circumstance. And by working out all that karma, one eventually becomes a siddha, or a completely freed being. So now we're here in the song. We can then return to the first melody, along with the low drum again, so that in the horn now, the higher consciousness is more prominent, with the harp or the individual or personal experience somewhat in the background. So from the spiritual eye, we're reviewing that whole parade of the scenes of your life again. Pause here. You're seeing that parade of scenes of your this life and all lives from the beginning, acknowledging again those earlier feelings in the heart, but then transforming them with wisdom. There's a little heart energy here in the heart chakra again, and even in the lower spine with that low drum, but it's all being lifted up by the magnetism of that spiritual eye that's again inviting us into that wisdom. So we're reliving that past karma, clearing out the spine and releasing the energy that's trapped there. Now to continue the song, this next phrase continues the same pattern with the primary melody, but adds some high chimes. Yeah, I can hear those, which brighten the energy and lift again to the throat chakra, still being magnetized by the spiritual eye. I'll make sure I pause it. And the chimes are in effect saying, look and listen, that when you're calm, there's a higher and subtle purpose to everything you experience. If you can see it that way, you're hearing those little bells and that sparkle coming in that's letting you see something behind all of those past experiences. And this is essential wisdom, the kind that, as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, can spare you from dire fears and colossal sufferings, to see that everything in that parade of life, all your life experiences, has a higher purpose behind it, whether pleasure or painful, whether you like it or not. That doesn't matter. There is still purpose behind there. And now we come into this second to last phrase, the penultimate one here, where we hear the secondary melody come back with a more prominent harp in the horn in the background. It gives us that sense of individuality, again passing through the medulla, with another opportunity to invite ourselves into the flow. I'm going to pause it again. And it's very confident and affirming here to say it's more than just the yes I can, but yes I will. To say I'm going to put all of my energy behind that, accentuated by a kind of a final distinct double thump of the low drum to kind of say, okay, we are done, and we can release that energy. And so there's not so much pushing now here from, trying to lift and support the lower chakras or all of that, just as we've released the energy and we can relax into that upward magnetism and focus here at the spiritual eye. Everything rises up to the top of the spine. And then finally in the last phrase, the deep drum has gone away and it's replaced by slow strings. Something of like cosmic background support that's a real opposite to the snare drum. And then this is the part where you really are saying that you want to be able and are hearing the cosmic song, the cosmic om, amidst all the endless noise of Maya. And so here the energies float up from the lower centers and really all the spine, relaxing into God communion at the spiritual eye. And then we once again had the cymbals and the drum roll that's like a celebratory completion of that feeling of liberation. And so all in all, this parade, this passing of our life scenes and being able to see them from wisdom, the rising of energy in the spine and releasing all of that stuff really takes feelings that get stuck, especially in the heart, but also in the lower spinal centers, including all past hurts, and really marches them or parades them up into the higher centers, giving them a new reference point, a new point of view on that larger backdrop of creation. And as such, then, this song very effectively works to overcome hurt feelings, as mentioned before, but then also things like self-involvement and self-involved feelings, self-pity that you can easily get stuck in, as well as bitterness. And then that sense of lightness through the piece, especially in the second half, is again like watching everything you've done in this life and even everything you've done in all of your past lives that you will have to review at some point. And you're not going to be ready to review any of that until you can have that impartial wisdom that just sees everything from that divine point of view. But when you can, and you can see that see that simplicity that God is behind every last little bit of it, that's the release of the ego, that celebration that we hear at the end, that liberating review of the past that just, clears out all those negative emotions of things like guilt and regret and resentment. So anytime you really feel that you're being plagued by a lot of this stuff and just getting too involved in yourself and you're feeling too hurt, you're feeling too guilty, regretful, resentful, all that kind of thing, pull out the song and feel that lightness and joy of the parade marching by, marching up the spine toward higher consciousness.